Jodie is currently working on a private members bill which will embed a risk-centred approach to addressing psychosocial hazards in business. So Jodie, again, welcome. Could you tell us a little bit about the bill and what you're hoping to achieve?
Yeah, of course. So, can you hear me? Yes, if I sit here. To give context, I had a mental breakdown in 2017, and off the back of that, I decided, as you do, to set up your own law firm. It wasn't straight after, about a year later. But the thought process behind that was to create a psychologically safe place for me to work, and I couldn't find a law firm that genuinely put well-being at the core of everything that it did, and certainly didn't put people first. And part of that was also, so obviously it wasn't enough just to set up a law firm. I then decided to start a campaign to change the law. But the reason for that was I can only affect the people that were in, my clients and the staff that I then took on. And with the bill, the idea of the bill was really to look at what are the gaps? Why is it getting worse and worse and worse? What is the legal framework? And when I looked at the Health and Safety Act, so to give you context, I'm an employment lawyer, not a health and safety lawyer. But when I looked at the Health and Safety Act, there is reference to mental health and wellbeing. There's very little frameworks around it. There's a tiny little stress risk assessment, which you've probably seen that probably no one really uses. And it's not really very effective. So when I looked deeper into this and formed a committee of experts in the health and safety side, what we realised was there was a significant gap, and actually the legislation was built 50 years ago. Now, let's just think 50 years ago, what was our workplace like? We didn't have loads of emails, we didn't have Slack and Teams and all the other channels. And it was very much based on physical health and safety. So all of the risk assessments were focused around physical risk. So if we look at DSE assessments, COSH, all of that, it's all the physical side. And there isn't anything from a mental health perspective. So then I started looking at other countries. In Australia, I don't know if anyone's seen, Australia and Canada have brought in the psychosocial hazard approach, and they're adopting the international standard. And so what I've done is I've worked on creating something that fits within our legal framework to create a framework and support and guidance for employers that aligns with both employment law and health and safety to help identify those risks, because a lot of employers don't even think about those risks within their organisation, and it's not because they don't care, it's that they don't really know where to start. And so what I want to do through this new legislation is not create a new Health and Safety Act. We can use that as the primary legislation. But actually what we can do is create secondary legislation that provides support and guidance to employers on how to do it, rather than it just being, a line in some primary legislation. Everyone's trying to work out what the hell it means. Some really clear guidance. So we're working with HSE to try and create that guidance, and actually in the House of Lords next week talking about it. So the idea is to try to change the law for me in the next 3 years, because that'll be 10 years since I started, and it's a lot. It takes a long time. But actually really thinking about how you can start to do that now. And when I talk about psychosocial hazards, what I mean is exactly the points that you were saying, is identifying the risk in every organisation. So it's not one size fits all, but the assessments and the guidance that we'll provide can be used in any organisation, and then that will guide them on what they need to do to make sure that their team's well-being and mental health is looked after. So we're not just going, everybody needs a mental health first aider, because that's not the solution. It's actually about identifying the particular risk from an organisational level, and then beyond that on an individual basis. So really thinking about how we can start to do that now. And that's looking at everything from how we onboard people, how the conditions that they work in, also thinking about how they deal with conflict, how the job role is scoped out. Do people know what they're expected to do? Very simple things that we often overlook, but taken collectively can really impact someone's mental health. So that's the top level overview of what I'm trying to achieve, and hopefully we'll know a little bit more in the next few weeks.
Brilliant, thank you.